Welcome back everyone to the Back 40 Firewood channel. So a few videos ago I showed you the finishing up of the project we had for the privacy fence up in the front of the house. So it turns out there's another spot on the property where we need to put up a privacy fence, and with the price of lumber being what it is, we decided to come up with a different idea for that fence as well. So let me show you quick where the fence is, why we have it, and then we'll come back here and we'll go over the idea we have to possibly use something like that for the fence. So I don't know if you're like me or not, but I need a place on the property where I can just kind of pile stuff and put stuff randomly, leave it for a while, and then maybe come back and get it, or it just ends up accumulating. And it's always nice to have like that little zone, that little dump zone on your property where you can just put what some in your family may consider trash, where you might consider treasures that you want to hold on to. So now in my case, over here along this side of the property, I have a little location where I toss pallets, fence, posts, boards, whatever. It's a little area that I just, started putting things just to get them out of the way, but I wanted to keep them because someday I may need them. My little area over here is right along this side of the property, but the problem is that it's directly across from the pond and the outside recreational area. So what we did a few years ago was we went on online, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, whatever, and we found somebody was taking down their old privacy fence. We found these panels real cheap, bought a bunch of them. You can see some are starting to fall apart. I had a couple of them already down. So this wasn't really, it was a solution, but it wasn't very appealing to look at, especially now when it's starting to fall apart. So we need to come up with something to basically put up a fence, a privacy fence from our own stuff. So here's a good example. This IBC tote bladder, we use that in the spring when we go around and clean up the yard. We put the leaves in here and then I can haul it back and dump it. So this thing I need to use like once or twice a year. Perfect candidate to be put back here behind the fence, just like that. But like I said, the main thing is when we're sitting over there, we don't want to be looking over here at just the random junk that I put back there. So we've come up with a solution to replace this privacy fence. All right, so you can see over there is my shed, and that's where the fence needs to be, coming out right from the end of the shed. Over there is the pond. So to demonstrate this better, let me just set something up here. All right, so we have my shed. The shed is sitting right here. Coming out from the end of it is where I have a bunch of random stuff that we don't want to see when we're sitting by the pond or in the pond. Let me just put, there, we'll put a, so when we're sitting over here by the pond, they'll say, this is the amazing Amanda. And then if I'm sitting out there with her, we don't want to see all that junk. So we're over by the pond. How do we block the view of the junk with what we have? Well, in the wood yard, I have a bunch of logs or big round pieces of wood. So what if we took some of these rounds and we stacked them up and made a little privacy fence out of the rounds. Now, if you have a big round like this or a log, I'd have to cut that down to smaller sizes, but we could stack them all up and build a fence so that we don't see the junk behind it. I bet a bunch of you were thinking I was going to get a sawmill. Not yet. But I do have this big pile of rounds over here that was set aside for future personal use for me for the boiler. So what I was thinking was, some of these are pretty long cut. So I'll cut off like 8-inch chunks, and then that way if I use a 4x4 post, you know, they'll fit in there nicely. There'll be support on each end. I could use 16-inch rounds, and then if we don't like the way the fence looks, obviously then I could just take those rounds, split them, and use them. But then I would need twice as many rounds in order to get the idea and the concept to see how it's going to look. So I figured I'll cut 8-inch chunks. If it doesn't turn out the way we want, I can just take those chunks and feed them into the boiler. Won't even need to split them, just, you know, they'll be fine. So all right, so there's a good amount of rounds to get started. We'll take these over there, get them set in place, and see how it looks. All right, so I'm over here where we're gonna put in the first section. I put down some pavers that we pulled out of the pond when we redid the bottom of it. So I'm kind of reusing those pavers on the bottom. Got the 2 posts in place. The other thing I should mention is that with those panels, not only did the price of them like triple, but the other thing is, last I looked, there was only 4 in stock at my local supplier. So not only do they cost more, but they're hard to come by. So if we're able to just get a few, that might work out good, where we can have a section of this type of panel with the rounds, and then a regular panel, and then another section of rounds, and so forth and down the line. So we'll see how this turns out. So now we'll start putting some of these rounds in place. So I started filling in some of the gaps with just using the chop saw now to bust down some of these smaller branch pieces to kind of just fill in the gaps there. And the one thing is I know that that post was a little bowed, but that post did actually start leaning out a little bit. So I braced it for now, and what I'm going to do is I'll tie in the top down to that bottom on the back side once this is done. But that's how it's coming along. One thing I think for the next section, I think I'm going to use 10 to 12-inch rounds. The 8-inch rounds just were a little not quite as stable as I would like. So I think I'll increase the length of the round, and then we are going to go, now I got to go try to find one of those new panels, put that in. We're going to stain it the color of the fence up front, and then we'll have wood, and then a panel, and then wood, and then a panel, then wood, then a panel, and then wood. I think that's the plan. All right, so I think that's going to do it for this video. We've got some weather moving in. Rain is on the way, so we're going to take a pause on this project and head to the store to see if we can find a few more new panels, and then we'll come back. And like I said, I think for the next section of rounds like this, Obviously we got to top that off, but for the next section, I think I'll cut them a little bit longer, maybe 12 to 14 inch maybe, and that way I can actually use some of the already bucked up rounds that I have, and then from some of the other logs that I have back there, I can just cut them to that length, and I won't have to be cutting them in half or cutting them down. I'll just cut them to the size I need. But yeah, with everything kind of filled in there, we'll get some smaller branches to still fill in some of the little gaps, but I think that's going to look pretty cool. So we'll give you guys an update as soon as we get more of it done. But for now, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, have fun, and be cool.